Warm welcome to Archetype 43. Today in the overview, we're going to look at this archetype from a human design perspective, where we look at the body graph, the channel, the circuitry. Then we're going to look at the 43 from an astrological perspective in Scorpio, and also the programming partner, the quarter. We're going to speak a little bit more about the gene key, and we're going to end with looking at the 43 from an I Ching perspective. This is the Rebel Archetype 43. At the end of Scorpio, it's in transit from November 11th to November 16th. This is the gate of insight in human design. In the I Ching, we call this hexagram breakthrough. And in the gene keys, the frequency band goes from the shadow of deafness to the city of epiphany, and the human pathway, the gift frequency, is insight. As usual for these calls, we are gaining awareness, but it's also with the intention of going out in the world and embody our design in a more aligned and deeper way, so more true self than not self. In human design, like we said, this is called the gate of insight, and it's in the Ajna center, and this center in the frequency band of integral human design, we can see that the low frequency of the Ajna is anxiety, the gift frequency is thinking and labeling and the things that the mind is good at, right? And the highest frequency is awareness. The Ajna center has to do with vision, brain balance, and also this is where we conceptualize. We have some other archetypes that also live in the Ajna center: the alchemist 47, the inventor 24, the philosopher 4, the idealist 11, and the discoverer 17. When we're looking at the whole channel, we call it the channel of structuring, a design of individuality. This is a projected channel between the throat and the ajna. If you only have this channel, you are a mental projector. The theme, if you have this channel, you're here to impact the way others see and think about things. You're capable of innovative thinking, and unless you can explain your thinking clearly, you will drive others away. Learn the right timing for when to speak and when to not speak. And this is one of the channels that is quite common. Why is it common? It's one of the three that has in the wheel the opposition, and it's also creating a channel. That's the same thing with the 37 and the 40 and the 2034. When we have them, for example, in the incarnation cross or in the nodes, we're going to have both, right? Some key words for the rebel: selective hearing, inner voice, and spontaneous resolution. And for the translator 23, we have spontaneity, directness, and articulation. Looking at the whole frequency band of this channel, whether you have it by yourself or you have it with somebody as an electromagnetic channel, the low frequency is avoidance, and avoidance comes from deafness and complexity. Then we have the gift frequencies knowing, which comes from insight together with simplicity. And then the highest frequency, the spiritual non-duality frequency, is unknowing, and that comes from epiphany and quintessence. We are in individual circuitry. We can see that it's what's in the middle in many of the places of the body graph. And then the main keynote is empowerment. It's about a pulse that starts in the 63 between the root center and the sacral center. Or it could also be this connection to God and the inner knowing in the 2461. And then it goes through the whole entire body graph. And it has a deep melancholy in it because sometimes there is no pulse, there is no insight, there's nothing. And then it feels like life isn't moving. And that can lead to depression, entropy, melancholy. Looking at astrology, we are in Scorpio still. This is the last gate that is fully in Scorpio. In the 14, we're already on the cusp with Sagittarius. Scorpio, some of the roles or archetypes here: the sorceress, the shaman, and the alchemist. Scorpio's service to self-growth through the authentic expression of the awakened heart. It is fixed water, so it's the second time in the wheel, starting with Aries, that we are in the water element. The first time is Cancer in cardinal water, and then the third time is going to be Pisces in mutable water. This has to do with renewal, with death and rebirth, with sex, with transformation, and also with going deep and not being afraid of those existential questions and inquiries that live there. Scorpio is the fixed water, which is at the depth of the ocean, the waters of emotional authenticity and the rebirth of magic. The low frequency of Scorpio is deception. The gift frequency is authenticity, and the highest frequency of Scorpio is alchemy. On the other side of the wheel from Scorpio, we have Taurus. And here we are seeing exactly what I said before. They are opposites in the wheel, 2343, and they are also creating that channel of structuring, which is the channel of the genius or the freak. We can look at the hexagram and see that wherever 43 has a yin line, we're going to have a yang line for the 23 and vice versa. Deftness and complexity go hand in hand, insight and simplicity go hand in hand, epiphany and quintessence go hand in hand. And we are in the quarter now where the purpose is fulfilled through transformation. We just changed here with the Sphinx gate number 1. We can see that all of these hexagrams, all of these gates have the binary, which is 2 lines of yang on the bottom. When we have 2 yang on the bottom, we have this quarter of mutation, death and rebirth, and the godheads that are holding this part of the wheel are Prometheus, Vishnu, and then the last part, we don't have a godhead. We have those gates here where we have the endings and the beginnings, but actually there are no real endings and beginnings. They're just spirals of evolution. So there is a little bit of this ability through the 61, the 60, the 41, and the 19 to get out of the Maya and understand that we are not slaves under the program. The way that Robert who wrote the Godheads, he makes us feel into how, especially the Godhead that our sun is in, that we are quite conditioned by that Godhead. So if you haven't looked into the Godheads, always start with a Godhead that is connected to your sun, because that is the main conditioning theme for you in this lifetime. And you can also see what you care about. I often speak about the circuitry as something that you care about, but we could also speak about the sun, the Godhead, as something that is going to have an influence on your life. So if this is purpose fulfilled through transformation, transformation is going to be a theme for you if that is your sun gate. And in the gene keys, we were looking at this before with a low frequency, and that is deafness. So to go a little bit deeper into deafness, we can remember that it's individual circuitry. So it's inherently not here to listen to what's going on outside necessarily. It's here to have that inner knowing. The lemma is knowing, because it can also project out to know best, for example. So in the reactive, it's very noisy. But in the repressive, that knowing is repressed and it's connected to the 23, that in the low frequency can give authority to something outside itself, even if it shouldn't, because of course, if they are in the same channel, both of them are individual. In the repressive, the 43 can be very worried. And that takes a lot of mind space, ajna space, a lot of space. And then in the reactive, because it's deaf, it becomes noisy. And then nobody wants to listen and it drives people away. Then the victim state, which sounds quite reactive here, more than repressive, needing to be right. That is where it can seemingly make people think that it's not worried because it's always right. But being right actually does not take away worry. So that's the gene key in a low frequency. In a high frequency, because it is connected to the 61, so the inner knowing is connected to the 24, and it comes down through that middle pillar, there are amazing insights here, epiphanies, and they are connected to something that hasn't been heard before. The individual circuitry, it's about mutation. So it's going to bring in things that haven't been seen or heard before. That's why it's really cool. And it can have that melancholy too, that the world is not ready for those insights yet. Within individual circuitry, the self-empowerment is important. What does that insight, that connection to God, to inner knowing, to the divine, what does it give you first and foremost? Because once you have tasted that and it's there for you, it's not necessarily that the whole world needs to resonate or know it. To use those insights for your own empowerment rather than trying to push them on somebody else. And then let's go to the last part. This is the I Ching, where instead of 12 zodiac signs, we're looking at the wheel in terms of 8 elements. The elements that we're speaking about are starting here: thunder, earth, mountain, water, wind, heaven, lake, and fire. And now we are in the part of the wheel that has heaven on the bottom with all these gates that you see here. In this specific case, we have lake over heaven. in the I Ching, it's called breakthrough, trust in the enthusiasm of life to reveal the creative light. When we have heaven energy over heaven energy, that is the same as hexagram 1. When we have lake over lake, that is the same as 58. So we could say that the 43 is a combination of this elemental energy of 58 and of 1. So that creates a braid for us. Deafness is dissatisfied entropy. Insight is vital freshness. Epiphany is the bliss of beauty. And we can also call this hexagram the elation of creation. Going one more step, this is a visual depiction of this specific hexagram where we're looking at two trigrams. So we have lake on top, which is the background. And then on the forefront, we have heaven. So the little guy is heaven, and that is connected to Leo and the 5th house. And then the background is connected to Taurus in the 2nd house. So we have a Leo here that is jumping, taking a risk on a Taurus background. And you can see even here in the depiction, there's a symbol that we have a bit of that Taurus way of looking at how the top of this symbol is made. The verb for 43, according to Abaxis, which is Sergio Arboleda's system, is to strengthen or fortify. So for the 43, if you have that, you have this theme of strengthening or fortifying. And why? Well, to be able to make the decision. So it cuts through, breakthrough, right? To be able to know, make the decision. And then we have spoken about this before. When we look at the hexagram, if we don't look at the bottom line or the top line, we are going to have lines in the middle. And if we look at those three, you can see there are 3 heaven lines here. And if we look one down, we look at those 3, there are also 3 heaven lines. So hidden trigrams within this hexagram, it is the heaven hexagram, which is connected to Leo. The ruler is the sun, and then this is the 5th house. Looking at the hidden recommendation within this one, we have get creative with light, which creative, heaven, that's the very essence of this element. And then light, of course, is also the essence. So get creative with light. If you have the 43, instead of getting worried, instead of feeling you have to be right, just get creative with light. And that's going to fortify and strengthen you so that you know, maybe be able to make a decision, but so you know. There's a lot of light inside of this one. But at the same time, we could say that it has that combination of more of the masculine energy with heaven and Leo, and then more of the feminine energy with Lake and Taurus or Venus. So these are also the rulers that you can see here on the side, the Sun and Venus. You can still sign up for the free 3-day series. Some of you were already with us for that. Now they have been edited and a little bit more clean and clear and crisp. So we can put that in the chat if you haven't watched. It's uploaded on YouTube. So if you sign up, you will have those 4 hours of weaving the language between the 3 systems and also going a little bit deeper into the lines.